The bounce that started from the lows of last Monday's trading session continued today as the S&P 500 closed at 60.66, up 0.67%. We still have yet to break this channel that has formed going back to approximately mid-January. However, we come closer and closer to the upper resistance level. We see gamma exposure is growing at the 6100 strike, 6150, and the 6200 strike. We've been pointing this out for the last couple of weeks. In particular, this has really come back strong over the last week with positive gamma exposure growing at these higher strikes. And we see market participants in the options market continue to come in every single day with strong volume at higher strikes, as well as open interest maintaining at higher strikes. Today, we had nearly 100,000 contracts on the S&P 500 traded at the 6100 strike. And the last several times that we've seen these outlier volume numbers at higher strikes. And this, of course, is higher than what the S&P 500 futures traded all trading session long. And so every time we see these outlier volume numbers, this has resulted in an eventual move into that strike. And so we saw it mid-January, end of January, and then we've seen it this first week of February. And so we continue to see volume coming in at that 6100 strike. And we think there's a high probability in the next few trading sessions to once again tag that 6100 level. The 6200 level remains the largest gamma exposure concentration overall on a net basis, and so that is our ultimate target heading into the March options expiration. In terms of the historical gamma exposure chart, we can see over the last couple of weeks we've really been hugging this zero gamma exposure line basically between 0 and 1 billion. And I'll note that there has been very little negative gamma exposure overall on a closing basis going back for the past month. And so this to me is a very positive sign. We continue to be in a buy the dip environment. And basically, if we scroll back up to the chart, you can see that has been the case with all dips being bought. And these are really shallow dips. Basically, every time we dip below 6,000, we have a combination of market participants buying as well as vol sellers completely smashing it. And so both of these factors have really caused these spikes that we've seen every time we've dipped below the 6,000 level. The Qs also had a big move today, trading up well over 1%. We're right back into this big 530 strike that we've seen hit multiple times over the last couple of months on the Qs. You can just see here on the chart what kind of resistance this has basically been every time we've approached this 530 to 535 level. And it appears that the Qs are really making an effort here as market participants come in both in the underlying as well as in the options market. And basically the move since this January 13th low has been super strong. And so here we go, coming back into this 530 level. I think if we can get a break above that level, we can easily see 540 in the next couple of weeks. Of course, this is not a hard and fast level. You can see this is more of a zone between the 530 and 535 strikes. Metals have also been another big winner in this market. GLD now trading above 268, approaching this big 270 strike that we've been watching. We actually locked in profits on one of our positions earlier this week, and we re-entered a new position on GLD, taking advantage of a really great risk-reward opportunity. By the way, if you're interested in following along in our portfolio, our premium members can see all of the moves that we're making. I'll put a link down in the description below where you can join. You can also check out our community Discord for free as well. And this move on GLD since mid-December, we can see we kind of had this little miniature double bottom, and ever since then it's been off to the races with almost a parabolic move forming. Volume has continued to be strong at this 270 strike, and we're starting to see volume pick up at these higher strikes as well, along with gamma exposure. I think GLD looks good on any dip. We're currently in a position on GLD, and we're looking for a move into this 270 strike, and we're getting awfully close. And so this looks like it'll be another great profit for us in our portfolio. Next, let's take a look at Nvidia. We mentioned mega cap tech and the Qs, and Nvidia is a big part of that. Big move today. The last 30 minutes saw a little bit of a retracement. We were over 134 earlier in the day. Really great move. And if you watched our video yesterday, as well as multiple YouTube videos last week, we've been mentioning how this 130 strike was really key. You can see the delineation here right at this 130 level between support and resistance. And Finally, Nvidia breaking through this level. This is another play that we had an option strategy on in our portfolio. We actually entered below 118 on this initial hit from the DeepSeek AI news. It's been volatile for about a week and a half, and now finally breaking through the big 130 level. We locked in our gains today on that position. However, I'm looking for any kind of pullback, maybe towards this 130 strike, to re-enter, because now we're seeing gamma exposure taking off at the 140 and the 150 strike. So I'm looking for a slight pullback to re-enter an option strategy that can take advantage of a move into these higher strikes. We also see volume coming in between 130 and 140. This is over 300,000 contracts at each of those strikes. And so this has given me a lot of confidence that market participants continue to be bullish on Nvidia. The momentum is in Nvidia's favor. Currently, we'll see if it can continue, but so far that 140 strike looks like the next potential target. Next up, let's take a look at Google. Google getting hit on the back of its earnings report, leaving a big open gap here. We saw another move lower on Friday before slightly bouncing today. But in the options market, interestingly, we continue to see volume coming in from 185 all the way up to 200. If you've been watching our videos for the last couple of months, you know this 200 strike has been crucially important, and we've come up and tagged it multiple times. The gamma exposure has been very strong at that strike, and the fact that we continue to see big volume in the options market coming in at that 200 strike, I think is very significant. At this point, however, it is a bit more of a speculative play. We really need to get back above the zero gamma exposure level. If you look on our chart, you can see currently the zero gamma exposure level is right at the 190 strike. So I'd like to see a little bit of a breakout above 190, an attempt to get back into this gap zone that was left over from last week. However, the great thing about options is that you can structure a low risk, high reward type of trade. And so that in the case that you're wrong, and let's say Google continues going lower, you don't really lose that much. However, if you're right, you can get potentially outsized returns if this 200 strike comes back into play in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that's going to be a play that we're looking to add potentially into the March expiration, targeting this 200 strike. And so this is another name that we're discussing in our community Discord. If you're interested in following along, link in the description below. Next, let's take a look at Palantir. Palantir trading above 116, a huge move today, over 5%. Continuing to defy all expectations off of this low here earlier in January, which was nearly half of where we're trading now. Huge move. It looks like market participants want this 120 strike. We saw big volume coming in, and we also see high gamma exposure. This is not a name that we've been trading for the last couple of weeks. We did take some trades in it back in November and December. I think if you're not already in Palantir, it's just too much risk at these current levels. I'd wait to see some sort of pullback back into the 100 level, or potentially back into this gap zone here, and that may take some time to play out. However, in the very short term, I wouldn't be surprised to see a last gasp up through the 120 strike. This is our upper dealer cluster zone on Palantir, and so I would expect some selling pressure to come in above 120. And we are seeing pretty big volume coming in all the way down to 100. And so, it's a little bit of the Wild West here with Palantir. So use some caution if this is a name that you're looking at. Next, let's take a look at Tesla coming into the big 350 number. Tesla continues to struggle after its earnings report. However, I will say that bulls may have some reprieve here. We are coming into our lower dealer cluster zone. This is the largest negative gamma exposure concentration at the 350 strike. So we could potentially see a bounce out of this zone. I'd like to see some momentum build here first, maybe past the zero gamma exposure level, before looking at some sort of premium collection strategy on Tesla. Implied volatility is through the roof right now, and so that's something that could be an interesting play. We just need to see the bleeding stop and find some equilibrium on the stock itself. Interestingly, we did see big volume coming in the options market at the 400 strike today. We also have a pretty large gamma exposure concentration there as well. So that could be an ultimate bounce target if we can get some momentum coming out of this lower dealer cluster zone. So that's something we're also going to be taking a look at here in the coming week or two. And don't forget, you can access our gamma exposure dashboard and our option flow analytics tools by heading over to geeksoffinance.com. We're currently running a promotional special, $300 off our yearly portfolio manager tier subscription. We have a few spots remaining. Use code WINTER2025 at checkout to take advantage of that. You'll also get access to our community Discord as well as all of our premium channels. We've got a ton of great traders in there sharing their own strategies and trade ideas. You'll also get to follow along in our Geek portfolio with all the moves we're making every single day. You definitely don't want to miss that. Link in the description below. Thanks so much everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.